All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being on our daily Zoom call. We've got a couple of amazing guests with us today. We've got Tony Baroni. Tony is a mega agent out of the Brandon Market Center in the Tampa area. And then we've also got his partner, Mike Malcom from the Orlando market, where he runs an expansion team for Tony over in the Orlando market at our Southwest Market Center in Orlando. So Tony and I were chatting a little bit yesterday, and we were just kind of talking about what we were going to discuss on the call today. And he was telling me that he and Mike have been doing a lot of these calls, and they've come up with a great plan and set of strategies that they've been sharing with agents around the country that has been really well received. And it's their 11-point plan for kind of dealing with everything we're dealing with right now. So rather than me asking a bunch of questions, I just asked Tony if he and Mike would be good enough to share that with you guys, and then we can do some Q&A at the end. So hope you have a pad and a pen. Otherwise, you can go back and watch this later once we post it up to the Office YouTube channel. But let me just hand it over to you guys, and you can take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, we're going to fly through this. So how much time do we have? Remind me on that.
We're scheduled for a half hour, but if we need to go a little bit over, that's fine. We're glad to have you with us. So if you've got extra time, that's great.
Yeah, I'm guessing it will take about 30 minutes to get through this, and then we'll be here for Q&A after for whatever you guys want to talk about
Awesome.
as well. Okay, so thanks for having us. As he said, we're in the Brandon Market Center. We cover all of Tampa Bay, Lakeland, Orlando, and Mike, our expansion partner in Orlando, runs the Orlando office. So we can help you over this way. Definitely let us know. I know there's a lot of people sometimes that are like, hey, maybe Sarasota, maybe Bradenton, maybe Tampa. I know our relocations do the same thing. So let us know if we can help in any way. So we're going to go over today our 11-point plan that we came up with on how to deal specifically with what we're going through. So I call it the 11-point plan of crushing the coronavirus. So let's get started here. Mike, you want to take it from the top here and start with the first point?
Sure will. Yeah, thank you for having me. I did go to Sarasota for the ESO training towards the end of last year. So yeah, just really loved Sarasota when I was there. But yeah, as far as the 11 points, our world changed about a month ago, quite a bit. And so, safety became the top priority. So that's really our point number one. Safety is the top priority. And, I think it's at this time, communication needs to be key with our team. It needs to be key with our clients as well. So we just need to ask a lot of questions because everybody's got a little bit different comfort level with people right now, even, having people in their home or if they're going in people's homes. Really, even your team members may have different comfort levels. So let's, I know Tony right from the beginning said, the world changed a little bit, but we're going to do a lot virtually, but we're still going to need some face-to-face. I need to know, how comfortable you are with meeting with people so we can have a discussion about that. And so we did that on our team, and then that's what we do with our clients. We've done a few things. I know that I had a listing appointment right at the very beginning, and they felt comfortable meeting face-to-face, and we did that and did more of a traditional listing presentation. But this was the end of March, and they weren't ready to list until May 1st. And so they, so we just said we'd stay in touch. Well, a couple of weeks went by and I was staying in touch, and I could tell they were getting a little nervous. So I shared with them a couple of forms that we had, and I'm going to share my screen here for a second with you so you can see this. Just let me know if, or can you see that?
Yes, you're good.
That I've got up on the screen now. Everybody see that? So we had these two flyers. This we call our coronavirus flyer. And this is something that we can post for our sellers, either on the front door or just on a table inside. Basically saying if you're experiencing fever, chills, we kindly ask that you reschedule. So we've got a little bit of that, and I didn't come up with either one of these flyers. They were just out there some KW agents were sharing. And this one over here, we branded, but this one helped my clients feel comfortable. We just said, we're stepping up our game for an occupied listing because they're going to be living there while they're selling. So we said the buyer must provide a pre-qualification letter. We don't want any exceptions to that. Buyer must view a video walkthrough. So our photography, we're doing the Matterport with our photographer and the video. And so we want the clients look at pictures online and then they get there and say, well, the house plan wasn't what I thought it would be. So the video can answer that question. So if they see all the listing, they see the videos and they still are interested in the house, then we definitely want them to come out and see it. We do ask for 24 hours notice so that the seller can prepare and sanitize the home, shoes off, et cetera, et cetera. So those are some of the things that we look at. Our listing agent in the Tampa area, our lead listing agent there has created care packages that he has booties, gloves, masks if he has them, this COVID flyer, Clorox wipes, air freshener. We deliver these to the seller there. So that's what we talk about with being safe and safety being a concern now.
Yeah, and Mike, I'll add a little bit to that just on the safety. So I categorize it really red, yellow, green. So green would be the team member or client that's like, hey, I'm going to practice social distancing and I'm good, right? Like they're not worried about meeting people. Yellow would be, hey, it's circumstantial. It just depends on the scenario, whether I want to go meet with the client or not. And then red would be, hey, I'm not meeting with anyone right now at all under any circumstance. So I think you need to ask your team if you have a team, and then you need to make those decisions. And then also your clients, you need to just ask tons of questions. I was on a did a listing appointment yesterday, and I said, well, why don't we walk through the house? They wanted to do it. They wanted a FaceTime during the listing appointment. And I said, well, why don't we Zoom? And they said, oh, I didn't know that was an option. That sounds even better, right? So it's just asking questions. That brings up our number 2 point, which is master virtual presentations, right? So, one thing I always ask people is, do you have your listing presentation recorded? If not, it would be a good time to do that. I know in Bradenton, Sarasota, you guys have lots of second home buyers, right? Vacation homes, investment properties, right? So you would be, right ahead of the competition immediately if you decide to have that recorded where you can just send it out. And then my favorite way to do it is send the listing present, do a prep call, get the questions answered to find out what their goals are, send them the presentation. And then the last thing would be you set up another time to discuss pricing and answer any of their questions. And then we've been pretty successful doing that throughout the coronavirus. I think we're on pace right now to get 15 listings this month during the coronavirus. And I think a lot of it has to do with our virtual listing presentations we have nailed. And buyer consults, same thing. I would ask questions. I was talking to Kate. Kate actually did, Kate on our team did a mastermind yesterday for Gary Keller's group. And she has 31 buyers under contract at this moment. And they were asking her some questions of how she does that. And she really just meets people where they are and decides, lets them dictate how they want it done. So she was using an example of, one client wants to use WhatsApp app. Another one wants to use Skype. Another one wants to FaceTime. Another one wants to Zoom. And she just customizes the experience however they want. And, she's pretty flexible on her end. And I think that really matters right now. You want to get to number 3, Mike?
Yeah. Number 3 is moving up the business timeline, or really just we've referred to it over the years of creating urgency. I don't know what you've seen in your markets, but with the shift and everything, we're really anticipating a lot of things that can happen during a downturn, and we really haven't seen that as much yet in our market center. So, you know, some scripts that you might want to use, one with the seller, you know, it's a great time to sell. You know, we don't know what tomorrow brings, but, you know, this is what we know. Based on the lack of inventory and lack of competition, now is a great time to be putting a home on the market. And we haven't seen house pricing slide or anything like that so far. So that's, you know, a good conversation to have with your sellers. On the flip side, with your buyers, you know, in the last couple of weeks, we've heard some unreal interest rates, right? You know, so, you know, now's a great time to buy. You may never get a better interest rate. So, you know, let's do this. Let's get out there and then find your home. We also, on the buyer's side, we encourage them to keep talking with their lender. You know, communication's a key because many things are changing right now. I deal with a lot of people that work for the parks, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, and of course, you know, with their furloughing and different things happen. I'm currently working with a buyer from Universal, and he wasn't furloughed, but they changed his hours to 4 days a week. So he's at 80% of his income. He's got a lot of vacation time. So he said, for 21 weeks, I'm going to use a vacation day a week and I'm going to keep my salary the same. And I said, well, yeah, that sounds great, but talk to your lender and make sure that's okay. So we don't, you know, have a surprise down the road when we are just using his pre-qualification letter that we have. So
Yeah.
That's number 3.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Move up business is so important. So for example, we have one closing this week. They said, hey, we can close 2 days early. And we're like, we normally would say it's not worth the hassle. Now we're saying, let's do it, because who knows what can happen. I mean, they could be furloughed, you know, I just had a closing last week. I'm not trying to, you know, get anyone stirred up, but it was really challenging. At the very end, they asked for them to pay off 3 bills in the tune of 12 grand to be able to get the loan. And it was my listing, and it was a buyer on the other side that wasn't represented by us. And they had to do it in order to get the loan. And they just kept changing the rules at the end. And they really were within FHA guidelines. So that's what we're seeing right now on some of that. Number 4 is price improvement. And by the way, I'm going to send this out. So you guys, you know, feel free to take notes, but I'm also going to send this out after. Number 4, price improvements and pricing listings right. Okay. So I went through the last shift, and man, it got ugly. It got really ugly fast. So, you know, if you think about it, if the prices do end up changing and you take a listing that's 10 or 20,000 over asking or over what the market value is, and then the market drops by 10,000 or 20,000, then you're 20 to 40,000 overpriced, right? And that's where in a shifting market, it gets really scary. We're tracking all our stats here very, very closely. We're finding, you know, when we're listing the properties right, we're still getting multiple offers almost on everything that's really 400 and below. 400 and above, it's becoming, you know, less people are looking at houses, less people can afford that price range. So I'm just coaching them. I'm using stats from our MLS, which we're all are in Stellar MLS. They have excellent stats you can provide depending on price range, months of inventory, and just educating your clients based on where they fall and making sure they make good decisions. And then if you're getting no showings or very few showings, you need to act fast with price improvements, because inventory is still really low, you know, in general for the lower price ranges. So, you know, just coaching them. I always tell them, you know, tell my clients, you hired me to really lead you to make great real estate decisions, right? So is it okay on a scale from 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be with you? And they'll say, well, 10, Tony. Every time they say 10. Okay, great. I'm glad you said that, because here's some of the things I'm thinking through that I want you to understand based on the statistics. And I'll go through all of that. But yeah, price improvements and pricing listings right. If you're pricing them right, they're still moving. We had one listed Friday. We had 4 offers on Monday. It went over asking price, and that was around 300 range. And it was a pool home, which there's a shortage of pool homes here. And we know that, so we are able to get away with a little bit more on pool homes right now. How about 5, Mike?
Number 5, bulletproofing the transaction. So, one of the things that we see that I've found, again, we've had a lot of buyers and sellers, successfully buy and sell, but I do sense a little bit of nervousness in them. They're kind of waiting for something to happen that's going to blow the deal. So I think, communication with them is key during the process. And, inspection is always, kind of a stressful time for both buyers and sellers. So I think it's at that point that a lot of extra communication as well. I had one of my listings go under contract, and we're set to close on Tuesday, but it was a cash buyer, closing less than 3 weeks. It just seemed real solid and everything. And then they do the inspection, and the buyer's agent, I just get an email from him saying, here's the inspection report. Please note the summary. That's what the buyer would like to see the sellers do. And I was thinking, you're kidding, right? I mean, so I knew my sellers, and I read through it, and it's the typical things. There was nothing crazy in there. It was just the typical things you see. But as a summary, from your experience as well, there's probably like 30 items in there. And I'm like, so I finally just went back to the buyer's agent and I said, well, first of all, put the items in an addendum that really, really concern the buyer, and I'll review them with the seller. But remember, this is an as is, the home's being sold as is. And so I didn't know this co-op agent too well. I was hoping he wouldn't just take the summary and put it in an addendum, but he actually came back with 3 very reasonable request, showed it to my seller. They're like, yeah, we can do that. And now we're moving on to closing. So just need extra communications and setting expectations.
Yeah, I've been saying, spend an extra 5 minutes. I've been telling my team, and it makes all the difference. So when you go under contract, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the deal. Like, we have about 2 or 3 more hurdles that we need to get through. The next one's going to be inspections. And pretty much what we're seeing right now, we're going to have to do a few minor repairs at a minimum. If there's anything major, we're probably going to have to fix it. So just want to be upfront with you that it is being sold as is. The beauty of that is you're not going to have to do anything you don't want to do, yet you also will probably need to do some repairs to keep it together. Okay, so it's just the market we're in. 3 or 4 years ago, we tell them to jump off a bridge and they would buy the house, right? So it completely has changed. Number 6 is the shift book, 12 tactics, and nothing has changed, right? So I used this book in 2008 to 2012, and man, it's amazing how it's timeless. Like, you read it now and it's like, okay, all of this makes sense. So, I think one point in there that I'm making a real stress with my team is we got to find the motivated, right? So, an example of that would be in Sarasota, that second time buyer that, they want to buy a vacation home, but it's got to be like the exact perfect scenario where they're never going to buy. You might not want to be spending a lot of time with them right now because, the market is probably not sending them great vibes to be able to purchase, in perfect conditions of market, right? So you got to find the motivated. So for us on sellers, I'm looking at, what's their motivation, right? I just took a listing. It is a little overpriced, and I knew that. I told him that, but he's taken a job in 3 months to the East Coast of Florida. So, I mean, he's super motivated, right? So they're going to make adjustments if needed. So I always look at, are they good to work with? They're going to be good to work with. What's their motivation? And then try to get them to price it right. If not, I have an honest conversation about it. And the shift book is definitely where it's at. So, make sure you're revisiting that book. And I know that's no secret.
Can I ask you a quick question, Tony, not to take us too off track, but back in 2008, 9, 10, as you were using those strategies and leveraging, the information in the shift book, what did that do for your business versus, other people that were kind of just business as usual?
Yeah, so I did 2 things that I think, looking back, was pretty smart on my part. Was the first thing was expired listings I focused on, because it was the market right then, and I called 100 expireds every day, no exception. I didn't take any day off. Actually, I took Sundays off back then. And the rest I was calling 100 a day. And then at closing, if I couldn't get a referral from my client, then I would allow myself to get the day off the next day. If not, I was back on the phone calling 100 a day. And then number two was I learned how to do short sales because no one in my market wanted to do short sales. So I'm like, I better learn how to do short sales. So I got really good at that and just decided I was going to be a great listing agent. And eventually I got so busy with short sales, I started doing only in-office appointments for listing appointments at one point, because I was having about 4 or 5 a day. And I realized that, you know, ultimately, if they didn't give me the paperwork and stuff, I could never complete their short sale. So I was kind of interviewing them to see if I thought they would do that to be able to complete the short sale and help them out, you know?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Is it my turn, Mike, or yours? I can't remember.
I think number 7, I'll take it. Training on a daily basis. You know, one of the things we love about Keller Williams are the training opportunities that we have. And so, you know, we have James Shaw every morning at 8 if we want to take part of that. And if you miss it, you can watch it in Facebook Live, you know, throughout the day. So that's fantastic. And there's, you know, I'm sure all the market centers are like ours that just still, you know, have a virtual training that we can go through. And on our team, we have a 9 a.m. call now that we do, that we've started since we've been all working at home. And that's great. It gives us the time to share our successes from the day before, or maybe even struggles. We can share our experiences with what we did the day before with a certain buyer or a certain seller. And then that helps everybody on our team to hear of those experiences or say, yeah, I can see how you struggle with that. Here's what we've been doing. And so it really helps us in those times. And Toni has also been great at just asking us, you know, with these changing times, who could be presenting to our team that would help. We've had a couple of different lenders come on and talk to us about their current, you know, what's going on with their lending right now. We can ask them questions about that and interact with them. And that's been great. We had a title company come on our a Zoom and present to our team. So, you know, those are the things that you can do. You can think about how can I get trained every day, because things are possibly changing every day right now.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to that, Mike, is, you know, Georgia Alpazar, you know, she's pretty well known in the industry for being one of the top regional directors. And basically, she's doing the shift with Omega every week at Wednesday at noon to 1. And really, that's to help all market centers, all agents to be able to leverage and not have to create everything on their own. So I think that's pretty cool that she's doing that every Wednesday, noon to 1. Today, I'm actually going to be the speaker for being interviewed for that. And then it's every Wednesday, noon to 1. So you guys may want to plug that in your calendar if you haven't. It's only been on a couple times, and it's going to go on every single week. So, you know, I think that's pretty cool training. And I know there's some big hitters on that. Next week's going to be Jordan Freed, which is my personal coach. And he's going to talk about lead generation. So don't miss next week from noon to 1. And you'll see that from our region. Number 8, the stimulus package. So, you know, basically, I'm sure you guys saw last night, you know, the funds ran out. They did get approved for another $30 billion, I believe. So, you know, obviously I'm not a CPA, but get with your CPA, find out what you qualify for individually. I think a big myth about this is that if you follow the rules, it's forgivable. So definitely get on the horn with that and find out more about the stimulus package if you don't already know so. And that's all I'll mention about that. But it's a pretty good opportunity for anyone with a small business.
And number 9 is lower all around expenses. So I think we've probably each done that. I know we've been encouraged from the beginning to just look at your expenses personally and business wise. And so my wife and I sat down together and we did that. We cut several things at the beginning, but you know, even this week, it hit us, you know, that basically I'm still going out doing some real estate business, and my wife, what she works on in her business is from home. And so we found we're just using our cars a lot less. As a matter of fact, we said, I think in a month, we haven't even taken out our second car. So we thought this month, why don't we, I mean, I've got a license plate that needs to be reviewed. It actually needs a couple of tires. So all that was coming around. I said, why don't we just put that car on hold? So we called our insurance agent and we, postponed our insurance on that. So we're just going to cancel it for a little while. And we're just using the one car, which, is not going to dampen our style. And then when things pick back up, we're just going to, bring our insurance back into play and, do the repairs and get the license plate and move forward. So
I love that, Mike. That's just being a good steward with your money, right? So, again, red, yellow, green. I think you guys have probably heard this before. Go through your bill. I'd recommend getting one credit card, have everything run through that credit card so you can get points as long as you pay it off every month. And then red, you are going to get rid of and cut. Yellow, it's kind of on the fence if you need it. Green, you have to have it to run your business. And just in the last week, guys, there's been 2 bills. I canceled one service. It was $997 yet to be renewed for a year. They charged me again after I canceled. And I caught that because I'm on it watching my statement. Yesterday, I had another service I canceled. Guess what happened? They charged me again, even though I canceled the service. So if you're not paying attention to your expenses, believe me, companies are doing that because it's happened twice to me in the last week. Crazy stuff. Number 10, over communicate. Okay. Clients have to be communicated. You need to get to them before they're calling you. I have a listing. It's a luxury listing. We have had no showings in the first 10 days. Before they called me and asked me what the heck's going on, I've already communicated with them, setting up a conference call to go over the details. I then did the research and realized in that price range, only 3 properties have sold in this city in this price range in the past 30 days, right? So higher price range. So they're like, oh, well, that makes me feel better. I really thought we were the only ones. And so anyway, it's just getting ahead of the communication, right? So over communicate, that not with just clients. You got to do that with your teams if you have a team, and make sure you're just over communicating everything, setting expectations like no other. And what is number 11, Mike?
Laser focused lead generation. So you spoke to this a little bit, sharing your experiences back dealing with expireds and short sales back during the last shift. But I say, the thing about this one, usually when you say, okay, there's a shift, we got to do something different. What are the scripts going to be? Well, I don't think you can get a script any easier than just a care call, and so we immediately jumped on that and said, we're just going to call our database and we're just going to ask them how they're doing, and let the conversation go from there. And, most of us, we're good at talking anyway. So you just get a conversation going and it works well on that. So I say just really, look in your phone, just go, pull up your contacts and just go through the list and just ask people how they're doing. And then the fact that they know you're a realtor, the conversation itself, will probably come around to real estate, but, just show, genuine concern. And so, that's what's, asked of us now. And, there's a lot you can do. There'll probably be more expireds come on the market. There'll probably be, other opportunities for us. But right now, I say the care calls are the answer. And it's what we can do to get the most business at this time and to just check in with our customers. So if they're not comfortable doing anything right now, when this is over, we're just expecting a lot of this pent-up demand to come back, and they'll be grateful that we communicated to them along the way.
Yeah, I think that people are just really curious what's happening in real estate. I know a lot of people have reached out to me just asking, so what's going on with the real estate market? And some friends are, hey, is everything okay with your business? I know, with the coronavirus, what's happening? So people are naturally curious. And I've had one guy on my team, his name's Chris Jossie. We do a lot of open houses on our team, and And he's finding the most success with the people he's met at open houses. He can't get a hold of, but when they're answering now, they're like, oh, it's so nice that you followed up with me to check in on me. I mean, we've only met once at an open house. I know I haven't called you back 18 times. And all of a sudden they're answering their phone and they're like, you know what? I do need to buy a house. And yeah, I'm going to go through you when that happens. So that's pretty cool. So I think that's the opportunity right now on those care calls, not only people you know, but people that inquired with you at different points. And you can call them and land them now by just throwing your line in, you know. And that's it, guys. That's our 11-point plan. Something else I wanted to at least add for market of opportunity in my mind right now for you guys in Bradenton, Sarasota. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of Airbnbs, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, you know, what if you looked up some sellers that own multiple investment properties that were Airbnbs, and then you're able to get a hold of them. You know that they, you know, if they have 3, 4, 5, 6 Airbnbs, they're getting paid next to nothing right now. That's a huge opportunity to potentially get them to list with you versus someone else. And you know they probably put 20% down. So worst case scenario, you know, they could probably sell if they really had to, right? So that may be a good market of opportunity right now for everyone on this in your area.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I know like, especially our beach communities, the rental market got absolutely hammered in the last 60 days. So there definitely are probably some people out there that maybe haven't picked up the phone and called a realtor yet. So, you know, like Tony said, get ahead of it. Why not be the person that calls them? So I know we're at 9 o'clock, guys, but I'll you know, Tony said we could do a little bit of Q&A. So do you guys have any questions you want to jump in with? And by the way, he did say he's going to send all this stuff out. So if you didn't see a slide or you missed number 7 or whatever, don't worry about that. He's going to send me the info and I'll be able to forward that out to you guys. But if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask, jump in now and we'll just take a couple minutes to do that so we can, you know, respect his time and get him on with his day. Oh, and you're all muted, by the way, so you'll have to unmute yourself. Nothing? Okay. It was that thorough. You guys don't have any questions about anything they talked about. Well, that's okay. All right. Well, Tony, Mike, thank you so much for being with us today. Looking forward to seeing you guys on the regional call later today. And then, you know, good.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, if you don't mind, just take a minute. Any ahas today with any of the point plans?
Maureen, you unmuted yourself. Do you have a question or aha?
Communicate.
Over communicate? Yeah.
Over communicate. We just never know what's going on in somebody else's mind until we ask the right questions.
Absolutely. I love that.
Rex?
Can we get a copy of those flyers that you had shown us in the beginning for COVID-19? I like that. I have a listing coming up that I would definitely use that for.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep, happy to help.
Maria, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I really like how to set expectations with the inspection. Just to tell the sellers, you might need to, you know, fix some items after the inspection just to bulletproof the sale.
Yeah, thank you,
Awesome.
Maria.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really key right now.
Just to add a little bit to that, it's never too early to start that conversation. In a buyer's consult, you know, I start with the buyers and say, we're going to have an inspection as part of the process, but, you know, you're going to get a huge list of things and you just got to pick the 2 or 3 items that concern you the most and ask for that. And then, you know, and then the same with the sellers, just say, you know, we've got an as-is contract, but, you know, expect that there's going to be some items, and if you can get away with 500, 1,000 or whatever number you want to put in there that's average for your market, you can say that's a win, you know, and then that way you're setting the expectations early.
Gary, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Tony and Mike, but I also wanted to compliment them. I've probably sat on not less than 40 Zoom calls since the coronavirus took place. And this is the first time that somebody shared with us the safety is the priority and the flyers that you are doing. So I just want to give you a great big attaboy.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so important, and I can't stress enough. Every client's different and how they operate. So you just gotta really ask tons of questions to find out where they're at and how they feel about everything.
And let's take one last comment from Tim, and then we can wrap up. Tim?
Tony, I like the way you did the virtual listing where you get the presentation right there online and you ask them what their comfort level is, because I think a lot of people assume everybody wants to do it virtually, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to know. I like that.
Yeah, and here's an example. Craig on my team, it's just his preference. Like he realizes his conversion's way higher when he goes out still. So he's really big about still going out. Of course, we're practicing social distancing. I said that on a national call and people went crazy. And I'm like, well, here we can do that, right? So he's doing social distancing and he's seeing his conversion much higher, and he's still getting the listings and are able to help them. So he actually prefers not to do virtual. Whereas myself, I prefer to do virtual right now, and that's just my preference. So, I think it just depends on the salesperson, and also depends on the client. And I had a client 2 weeks ago, Tim, they could care less about the coronavirus. They're in their late 20s. And they were adamant about me coming out to their house. And this was when things were really going sideways with it all. And I remember telling them, I'm just to be honest, can't we just do this virtually? And they're like, we really want you to come out. We went back and forth three times talking. And finally, I'm like, well, let's just start virtually. And then if you want, I'll come walk through the house if you hire me. Because they were worried about me seeing their house with all their upgrades more than just FaceTime. I said, well, I'll come out, but we'll practice social distancing when I do. So that's just how I did that one. But and I got the listing. But anyway, you got to customize the experience.
Yeah, you gotta. I think you said earlier in the call, you gotta meet your clients where they're at, right? So
Yep.
Compromise is good. You created a win-win. So. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I know we ran a little bit over today. Tony's going to be on the regional call later today. Again, if you wanted to jump on and hear more about him, Lauren and Rachel have the information for that regional call on our office calendar, if you guys want to go look at that on Facebook. And then, of course, we'll have another Zoom call tomorrow morning with Dustin Oglesby. He's a mega agent and a bold coach, so we're excited to hear from him. Thank you so much, Tony, for everything you guys are doing for your clients and also for the region. I know you're very involved with supporting a lot of agents throughout the region right now with the calls you're doing and the interviewing
Awesome
agents
job,
and that
Tony.
sort of stuff. So thank you so much, and everybody have a great day. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Good job, Mike.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Go crush it.